As the annual campaign shifts, the testimonials will come to an end. David McKinley will give the last one next week. I'm speaking today as your chairman of your Stewardship and Finance Commission, but I want to focus on Fabric and Grounds, Dr. Cheney's commission, because we often forget about the bricks and mortar when we do our annual campaign. It's easy to get behind St. John's House. It's easy to get beyond pies, get behind feeding the poor in our pantry on the go. But we often forget about the bricks and mortar. And what I'd like to propose to you is that the church itself is a vehicle for our worship, and it is a vehicle of our worship because of the stewardship of our predecessors. Okay, we could not afford to build this on the spot here and now. This is an accumulation of Christian mission for what's getting close to 300 years for this congregation. The communicant is alive today in this parish who will see us through our 300th birthday. We've been here a very long time. So we are both in time with each other, focused on each other's needs, but we also live through time. You have to remember that every time you sit in this church, the names of past communicants are all around you, right? They have given of themselves. Sometimes their families have put up a little plaque. Some of the most interesting people are the ones who are memorialized, but there's no plaque because they didn't want one. They just wanted the art itself to stand on its own. So you want to live in time and through time, and it all comes together in your Fabric and Grounds. And what I want to sort of propose to you is that there really are three physical churches here. The first is the church of your spiritual hygiene. Okay, this is a place to worship God, and it should be as near to perfect as possible. The way I used to illustrate this to the Sunday school boys is that when their room is messy, when my room was messy as a child, my mother, Mrs. Captain Donald James Meyer, would pull me aside and say, "Dan, why does your room look like that? What is wrong with your self-esteem, young man, that your room looks like that?" It wasn't go clean up your room. She didn't give me an order. She made me, it was a psychological trick, I figured it out eventually. She made me realize that, oh, I have an identity problem because my bed's not made. Well, it's the same with your place of worship. And a good example of that, when I first sat in the pew down here, there was a leak over this arch that drove me crazy. And finally, after about 4 or 5 weeks, I got Father Scott and Bob Routh and Father Rickards together, and we were talking about something. I pointed up and I said, "When are we going to get rid of that leak?" And Scott just wasn't focused on it. And so we've got everybody together. Bob got his skinny man at the firm to go up on the ladder, figure out that it was a problem with the flashing, and we plugged the leak. I'm a Navy guy. I don't like water, okay? It scares me. We got to plug the leaks. Well, the great stewardship moment in that was that right after that, Jackie Alexander saw a blank piece of wall. Can't have a blank piece of wall in an Episcopal church. And she stitched that beautiful banner that we now use to project ourselves when we're down with our fellow congregations with the bishop and we move in procession. That's the church as spiritual hygiene. Then there's the church as the ark. Okay, every week we come together and we hear from the pulpit and we hear from the lectern and we hear Father Rick's teachings, and then Deacon Sue opens those doors and blows us out the back, and we take that Christian message and we go into the world and make it happen. I do not think we're like the Jews of Israel. You take away the synagogue, they're going to keep going. They've proven it. Okay, the Orthodox Ukrainians and the Catholic Ukrainians right now, their churches get bombed and they keep going. We went through COVID and our numbers started to drop. Okay, we Episcopalians need the ark. We need the physical presence to remind us every week that we go out into the world. The last of those churches is the one I want you to focus on the most. The stewardship, the fabric, and the grounds in this church in particular, it's unique to this church. Tell the mission of sin and redemption that you see in the Old Testament. Those of you who've gone through EFM know exactly where I'm going with this. We sin, we're called up short, and then we realize that we've not met Christ's mission, and then we're redeemed. And that goes on and on and on. because we're not perfect. We're going to screw up again. But God has built it into our DNA that we reflect and we reform. And that's everywhere around you. Everybody loves our Roridas, okay? I come in every Sunday and I'm torn to pieces by that piece of architecture. Because I want to know why Molly McGill gave that piece of art to this church. Was it her Scarlett O'Hara mission? Was she back? She married the head of the Santa Fe Railroad after her family was thrown out of this town during the Civil War. And she wanted to put her mark back on her family church, and therefore we have, the Scarlett O'Hara moment of the Civil War on our altar. And if you think that that's a strange observation, that memorial cross is to her father, who was imprisoned in Fort Warren up in the Boston Harbor for being a Confederate spy. And when Charles came back, he was a member of our vestry, he was the head of our vestry, and he thought he was going to get a hero's welcome, and a mob showed up outside his house to hang him. And he had to get asylum from the Confederate government. They packed everybody up into the family wagons, and they went down to Richmond. So when I look at that, I'm like, wow, me with this. And then I look over at that plaque, Admiral McNeil, Fairfax. Okay, why was he made the head of our vestry after the Civil War? This was allegedly the Reb Church, and they make a Union admiral the head of their vestry. That story doesn't stop there. He started his Navy career in the United States African Squadron, intercepting slave ships and setting slaves free. So in the same congregation, you have those two tensions. And every week I look at those trying to think, where's the sin? Where's the redemption? The whole church is like a machine helping you understand the faith path going forward. When I want to look for the final reconciliation, I always look for the ones that have no markers on them, those two beautiful windows and the two transepts, north and south. Don't forget that, north and south. The Fitzhugh window and the Holker window. Got it wrong. Holker window, Fitzhugh window. Anne Fitzhugh was an abolitionist, baptized in this congregation, worshiped in this church down on Mulberry Street, and then goes with her family to upstate New York and gets the match of the century. Marries Garrett Smith, land agent to the Astors, right? The Astors owned all of upstate New York. So she just hit the lottery with that marriage. Her husband and her, whenever they say it was the husband, you know the wife was in on the discussion. They just didn't acknowledge it back in the 19th century. Funded, in part, John Brown's raid on Harper's Ferry. And so I'm thinking, wow, Fitzhugh's hit a home run. Where I grew up in Ithaca, New York, John Brown was a hero. I know he's kind of suspect down here, but in upstate New York, he was right up there with Patrick Henry and all those great patriots. So there you have the way her daughter was a leading suffragette. She was cousin to Elizabeth Cady Stanton. She was at the Seneca Falls Women's Rights Conference. She basically was part of the progressive movement in the United States all the way up to the turn of the century. Her daughter invented bloomers so women could wear pants instead of dresses. All out of this was their home church. So I'm thinking, wow, the Fitzhughs home run. Charles Holker Hughes's window reminds us of the Hughes family up at Mount Alto. Anne's sister-in-law and her nephew, who were also congregants at St. John's, were in on the team that captured the refugees of John Brown's raid after the raid. They went up the Underground Railroad by Burkittsville, the town I used to be mayor of. They snuck across what's now 40, got up into Mount Alto, thought they would find help and assistance up in Franklin County, Pennsylvania, and they just happened to hit the wrong person, Marie Antoinette Hughes, who was Anne's sister-in-law, and they turned him in for $1,000 bounty under the fugitive slave law. And he was hung 2 days later. So in one family, two windows, the same tension, driving you forward to think about how you make Christ's missions happen. David told me to keep this to 2 minutes. I ignored my husband once again, and that will lead to problems. I'll have something I have to do this afternoon because of it. But what I want to close with, as you think about Fabric and Grounds and what this church tells you, twice in the last 6 months, a former vestry member came to me and a beloved member who goes to the 8 o'clock session with challenges they were facing with regarding to immigration control and enforcement. Citizens in our community who were being seized and taken into detention. In one case, a heroic congregation who quietly led the effort to help her manicurist fight off being deported after 20 years in this country, succeeded, and a Baltimore magistrate called the woman back from the West Coast, and she's now out on a reconnaissance, and the issue will be resolved in the courts, not in some tribunal out in Washington State. And the second one from a former vestry member who teaches in our schools, had 2 students come to her, 15 and 17-year-old boys, and they said, we don't know what to do. Our mother's going to be deported next Tuesday. Think about that. Think about your kids at age 15, or think about me at age 15 or 17. If I lost my mother at that point in time as a single mother with 2 children, I would have just been an absolute disaster. Sure enough, we all talked, we tackled whatever we had to do, and we got it all together, and the mother is not being deported, and the kids are safely going through their schools and becoming good citizens like we want them to be. They're already citizens. Those same issues that drove worship at St. John's in the 1850s, 1860s, they have very similar resonance today, okay? History doesn't repeat itself, it echoes. And that's why you want to have a strong stewardship mission so that 100 years from now, the same stones can speak to the same communicants as they have for the last 300. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dan. My friends, walk in love as Christ loved us and gave himself for us an offering and sacrifice to God. all invited to bring a gift. Our pledge to St. John's. Know that your gift and pledge is always welcome. I want to pray and give thanks to God for all of our pledges this day.